15-year-old Braden Bond dreamed of traveling the world, going to college, and being a dad someday. Then he became a victim of sextortion in March when scammers posing as a teen girl coaxed him into sending explicit images of himself, then threatened to share with his family and friends if he didn't pay up. Racked with stress and the prospect of having to admit this to his friends and family, Braden killed himself, leaving a note saying, "Make sure he gets caught. I'm so sorry." On the evening of June 19, 2017, 15-year-old Sadie Riggs, a victim of in-person and online bullying, stayed at home while her Aunt Sarah ran a few errands. Upon returning, Sarah couldn't find her niece while running around the property yelling her name. Finally, she checked Sadie's favorite spot, an elm tree in the backyard overlooking the property. There she was, hanging from it. 16-year-old Emma Claire Gill's parents allowed her to start using Snapchat at 17, but restricted her access at night. When Emma's friend committed suicide, her parents allowed her extra phone time to support friends, but after Emma's parents caught her sneaking out, they took her phone. On August 8, 2021, without her phone for the first time since she started using social media, Emma went to the barn, found her dad's .22 caliber rifle, and shot herself in the head. Social media, as we define it today, has existed for about a quarter of a century, with the advent of MySpace in 2003 and the Facebook, as it was called, in 2004. In those early days, these services were limited to desktop computers and active college students, offering basic functionality such as making friend requests, building profiles, or writing on each other's walls. Today, people build entire businesses on social media. When this technology first emerged, some warned of potential dangers, but they were largely dismissed as kooks. But after a couple decades of this unprecedented means of communication, we have witnessed its impact on users and society overall. Sadly, horror stories such as the tragedies above happen all the time, but many still say they're edge cases, and social media is a net positive for society. Is it? Thanks for stopping by NPC Overrider, where we challenge mainstream source code to develop independent thought, one user story at a time. Grab your smartphone or tablet, and let's log into the NPC environment and check out the latest programming. The mainstream argument says social media is a net positive for society.
I realize that it's so often taught that social media is this horrible thing. In fact, at the beginning of each school year, most high school students are sat in a safety assembly. And part of the safety assembly talks about safety on social media. They tell you how you're going to get catfished or kidnapped, but they stop there. They don't tell you how you can use it in a safe and beneficial way, and unfortunately, those are very real things and do happen way more than it should. But the way to stop that is to teach teens how to use it in a beneficial way.
Point number 1, connectivity and community building. In a world where loved ones often live hundreds or thousands of miles apart, social media allows us to stay connected with photos, videos, or live streams. Through community groups, neighbors often organize events, share safety information, or make new friends. People with specific interests, such as those with niche hobbies or rare medical conditions, can find meaningful relationships and provide invaluable support. Point number 2, information sharing and education. If you've ever been stuck on a DIY project, you're familiar with the lifelines found in video tutorials and walkthroughs. Schools, colleges, and homeschoolers all take advantage of social media for special projects and standard lessons. Catching the latest news at 5 or 10 p.m. is a thing of the past, as people get real-time updates, often with local safety concerns such as inclement weather conditions, crime, or gas leaks. Point 3, economic opportunities. Social media creates jobs, not only for the staff at places like X or Facebook, but also for marketing teams globally. Online marketplaces allow people to organize their homes and make a buck, while buyers on a budget find affordable alternatives. Online freelancers find work on social media, and professional platforms like LinkedIn allow people to network and advertise job opportunities. Many people make money on Substack or selling trinkets on Etsy. Point number 4, amplification of voices. Back in the day, if you didn't have traditional media access, you didn't have a voice. Marginalized groups, such as the abused or medically injured, can raise awareness and advocate for change. National fundraisers, such as the Ice Bucket Challenge that raised ALS awareness, allowed millions of people to laser focus on a single issue. The days of watching a select few news anchors are over, as activists and journalists gain millions of followers, often reporting information not found through legacy outlets. Point number 5, entertainment and creativity. Research shows that 63% of teens say they are given a place that shows their creative side online. Social media offers an endless supply of entertainment, including memes, articles, and short films. Podcasters, storytellers, and streaming gamers have made lucrative careers on YouTube and Twitch. Musicians also make a buck on apps like Subscribestar and SoundCloud, where producers often scout new talent and bring them onto the physical stage. The rebuttal says social media is a net negative for society.
You got to ask yourself what keeps the psychopaths under control in the normal population. And the answer seems to be, especially on the male side, is that narcissistic aggressive men get put in their place by non-narcissistic aggressive men. And that usually has to do with something like the threat of physical intervention. You get a bunch of guys together. I can make a joke about you, and I could even make a joke that was sort of put you down. But the joke would have to be funny. You'd have to have the opportunity to reciprocate, and you'd have to believe that I was doing it in good spirit. Because if I just used the opportunity to stick the knife in, we're not going to get along with each other very long. And men know that when they talk to each other. And so part of what keeps dialogue among men civilized is the possibility that it won't be civilized if it goes too sideways. And everybody knows that. But there is none of that online, because anybody can post anything about anyone, no matter how denigrating and derisive, especially if they do it anonymously. And there's zero consequence. In fact, quite the opposite. If they're good at it, they get a lot of attention, and the social media companies will monetize it.
Point number 1, mental health impacts. According to surveys by the National Center for Health Research, about 25% of teens believe that social media has had a mostly negative impact on their lives. 13% of 12 to 17-year-olds reported depression, and 32% reported social media-related anxiety. Young adults fall victims as well, with 33% of 18 to 25-year-olds reporting some form of mental illness. Social media makes us less social, and the constant flow of negative news, life and body comparison, and sexualized content causes mental health stress or amplifies pre-existing issues. Point number 2, false information and polarization. False or biased information pushed by corporate media, government, or the platforms themselves, such as what the Twitter files uncovered, proves there's often more than meets the eye. During the lockdowns, social media users were suspended or banned outright for even asking questions, which eroded public trust. Algorithms polarize users by curating content based on user history, creating echo chambers that amplify selected information, which causes further social division. Point number 3, privacy and exploitation. Many users don't realize how much data social media platforms collect, such as targeted ads or third-party data sharing. Like they say, if you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. In the class action lawsuit against Cambridge Analytica in 2022, the consulting giant paid out $725 million after releasing personal data to third parties without user consent. Even with the best intentions, personal data remains at risk as hackers target databases, as seen in the recent X breach that exposed 200 million user records. Point number 4, addiction and time waste. Social media engineers design their platforms to increase engagement through functionality such as infinite scroll, where users never run out of swipe material. Also, dopamine hits from alerts keeps people reaching for their phones. On average, today people spend about 2 hours a day on social media. Teenage girls are closer to 3. This is a jump from 2013 when the average was 90 minutes daily. This prioritization of screen time often puts productivity, sleep, and real-world relationships on the back burner. Point 5, cyberbullying and toxicity. Almost 50% of US teens between 13 and 17 report being victims of cyberbullying in one form or another, according to a 2022 Pew study. Types of harassment include name-calling, rumor spreading, physical threats, and non-consensual explicit image sharing. Bullying aside, with more young people finding that their college degrees are worthless in a dismal job market, young girls are turning to Instagram or OnlyFans to sell explicit content. Adult professionals, such as Allie Ray, famously quit her nursing job in favor of online prostitution. On January 31, 2024, Mark Zuckerberg shivered in his loafers as Congressman Josh Hawley mercilessly grilled him before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. Standing behind Zuck were parents holding photos of their children whom they lost to social media-related suicide. As the Republican congressman pressured the social network giant to apologize, Zuck relented, saying to the protesting crowd, "I'm sorry for everything you have been through. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered." But while many of us shook our torches and pitchforks at our screens, does Zuckerberg really hold all the blame? We know social media engineers design platforms to be addictive, and leadership has been proven to take political action against its users. Still, did social media kill kids like Braden, Sadie, and Emma Claire alone? Sextortion, bullying, and addiction might be the final straws for many of these young people, but we don't often talk about the preceding straws weighing down on younger people these days. Braden, as a white male, spent the last few years of his life watching politicians, celebrities, the media, and violent mobs telling him he's responsible for the world's inequality. Reports say Sadie's mom stopped taking care of her at an early age, and her aunt spoke of her having a rough life to begin with. How many of these kids have less than ideal family situations? According to a local media outlet, Emma Claire's parents gave her a phone when she turned 10 for safety purposes. But do parents give their kids phones and social media access early out of fear of being labeled as weird parents? Let's also consider the flip side. What causes bullies to become so cruel that they would post on Snapchat, quote, "I'm glad she's dead," end quote, following Sadie's passing? Is social media net negative? I'm not sure these platforms have been around long enough to say. I think it's fair to say social media exacerbates already present problems with social decay as we lose our sense of nationality, faith, and culture. Some people will become social media philanthropists, while others bully each other to death. Some will use social media to stay connected with loved ones, while others descend into envious reclusivity. How we treat each other and raise our kids will determine their path, regardless of how addictive developers and engineers might design their platforms. Well, that's going to do it for this version of NPC Overrider. I'm your lead engineer, Greg. If you want to help me save the NPCs, please set the like button to true and open a ticket in the comments section if you have an idea for a future release. But for now, we're going to grab a beer. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a good one.